I love fantasy worlds. They're just so cool. They're brimming with potential, and from the very beginning, you never know the course that you're going to take to get to the final chapter. Avatar: The Last Airbender is among the best executions of a fantasy world I have ever seen in my entire life. Its characters, its themes, its concepts, and its countries are so well placed and developed. It just makes me want to go ahead and make a whole bunch of videos on them. Epic foreshadowing. I wanted to start off with today talking about Toph, because I just made an overpowered analysis on Adam Smasher, and you said you wanted more overpowered analysis, and I just made a video reacting to all of Toph's funny moments where they didn't know she was blind and stuff, and I'm gonna get canceled on Twitter for it. So I figured the best time to make all parties happy, an overpowered analysis on Toph. What's so interesting, when it comes to fantasy worlds and magic systems, you could have massive divides in power levels, the likes of which you just don't have in a normal, plain, non-supernatural environment. Your strongest soldier in the world up against, your average army, he's not going to be able to wipe out the average army. But if you have a super soldier in a fantasy world, he has the potential to absolutely wreak havoc. Now, this is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, introducing an overpowered character can be a really, really cool way to show you the heights and limits that the power system allows you to go. However, it also gives you an issue that if he's so overpowered, he'll just, overpower everyone. There goes all the struggles. You have this issue on both sides. When it comes to protagonists and when it comes to antagonists, if you have an overpowered character that's a protagonist, you don't want them just solving all the problems in the entire world. And if you have an overpowered character that's an antagonist, well, then eventually you're going to want to be able to overcome him, and you're not going to want to feel like an asshole that you were able to beat him because he was so strong and built up, and now for some reason you're able to beat him. Overpowered characters are always walking this incredibly fine line, and I think Toph managed to do such a great job walking along this line, being hailed as an overpowered character, a complete badass, and someone who steals the screen whenever she's there, and also being a character that by no means tips the scales in any favor that makes you feel like, well, Toph will just win everything, and won't feel like Toph is being undervalued in all the different scenes either. This is an overpowered analysis on my either second or third favorite character in Avatar: The Last Airbender, Toph Beifong.
Woo! Toph, you rule.
Toph manages to be a character that's this little girl, and she can kick everyone's butt. She is a character that's appreciated for her character, and not because she's a waifu. You want to know how the best way to write female characters in fantasy stories, clearly aimed towards a largely male demographic, even though, yes, I know, obviously women like Avatar too, that's not what I'm trying to say, but it's clearly in a more shonen-esque direction. But you know how to write a female character? God, I could actually talk about this. God damn it, it feels nice to have a platform. Make them, an actual human being. Yeah, it's so nice to have a female character that's not a love interest character. Can I just say that it feels so good? Like, you look at all its contemporary shows, especially of that time period, almost all the female characters introduced into the main casts somehow end up love interest characters that the main character needs to save a bunch of times. To be frank, I hate it so much. Toph is the opposite of that. Toph's actual gender absolutely means nothing to her overall role in the story, because Toph is a well-written character regardless of who she is. Being well-written and being overpowered done right are two completely different things. I want to focus a little more on the overpowered done right area, and I don't want this to be one of my other series like a No One Understands Toph, which might happen at some point in the future, who knows, maybe if you leave a like on this video. But I really want to focus on the power level thing here. In Avatar, you got your 4 elements, all right? You got your fire, wind, water, and air. We may look bad, but we don't care. That's basically the theme song for Avatar for those of you that are uninitiated and uncultured. And each of these 4 elements, or the benders of these 4 elements, that's the people that can control those elements to some degree, they're all really strong in their own ways. They all have their own powers, their own abilities that are basically different ways to shoot fireballs, drown people, throw big rocks at people, or fly. So the Avatar is the ultimate god character. This is a character who has the ability to control, wait for it, all all 4 elements, and he's reincarnated into every single generation as this ultimate peacekeeper god. That once he has the power to control all of the 4 elements, bro, no one is gonna stand up against this dude. He can melt you in every possible way. I might eventually do an Overpowered done right whole video style on the Avatar concept in Avatar The Last Airbender, because for the most part, when you get your chosen one characters, it's really, really hard to do them justice, and I think Avatar actually kinda did, which is really crazy. But even more than that, despite Aang, the Avatar, the master of the elements, being present, Toph is still far more dangerous than he is for the far majority of the story. Literally up until his very final battle, where Aang, like, actually unlocks God mode, and he's like, bro, all these Dragon Balls got nothing on me. My head is a Dragon Ball, and then proceeds to kick the Fire Lord's ass. It's Avatar time, and then proceeded to Avatar all over the place. You know how it is. I've seen The Way of Water. I know a thing or two about Avataring. That was a lie. I didn't actually see The Way of Water, but I saw some really cool highlights of it on Pornhub. I don't know if it's actually legitimate or not, but I do believe it did the series justice. Anyhoodle, we have a problem here. Aang only knows airbending at the beginning of the story, and in order to defeat the great Fire Lord, built up arch-villain guy, who, not one of my favorite villains of all time, but not the point. You ready for a very controversial take? Despite the fact that Avatar is like a 9.5 out of 10 series, and Legend of Korra is like 7.5 out of 10 series, all of Legend of Korra's villains are better than Fire Lord Ozai. All right, that's the hot take. Anyway, guys, just don't pay any attention to that. If you want me to establish these points, blow up the like button on this video. In order for Aang to actually defeat Fire Lord Ozai, this dude needs to master all 4 elements, because Fire Lord Ozai, bro, he's called Fire Lord, all right? You don't get that name unless you're kinda scary. Aang has to master all these elements. He learns waterbending from his homie, love interest, Katara, weak-ass character in my humble opinion, but again, not the point. Don't flame me, Katara stands. I'm sorry. I know she has a kind of a cult following over there that they like her hair loopies. He eventually learns firebending from the coolest character development of a character I've ever seen. God, Zuko is like a pinnacle character that every writer needs to freaking buckle down and write at. That man is the ideal character development character. But again, not the point. I fanboy when I talk about Avatar. And he has to learn earthbending from Toph. Despite the fact that he learned earthbending from Toph, he never actually surpasses Toph in earthbending, and that's something I really like. Despite the fact that the Avatar has the affinity for all these elements and he could bring them to their highest potential, he never actually does surpass Toph in earthbending. Toph remains overpowered from the beginning to the end, where she's introduced as this incredible fighter, someone who's completely blind, and because of that, she's learned to use her earthbending from blind moles. She didn't have like your typical teacher teaching her earthbending. She's learned earthbending from the source. Her blindness allows her other senses to blossom and grow, and because of that, she is able to use earthbending in ways that no one else can. She could sense everyone around them due to the vibrations on the floor, and this became her greatest strength when it comes to earthbending. Now, one important note when it comes to an overpowered character, especially a protagonist, not an antagonist, they gotta have some weaknesses. If they are just strong in every single possible way, there's no reason for them to have their allies and their power of friendship moment, and there's no way they'll ever be overcome by anyone without actually throwing dirt at their name. Imagine a protagonist who's overall hailed to be this incredibly powerful guy, and then in order for some plot development to happen, that character just gets beaten in an embarrassing fashion. That's embarrassing for that character. Now, Toph has this huge advantage. She has ultimate sensory abilities that she can sense everyone around them that's on the ground, but that is also one of her weaknesses. She can only sense things on the ground. In the air, she is useless. On sand, she is not used to the terrain, and it'll take a long time for her to actually start to understand how things are moving. Due to her lack of eyesight, which obviously sucks, it's proven that she is capable of losing in specific scenarios. And I really think that's a really powerful writing point, and because of this weakness that she'd have in so many scenarios, she's able to flourish and grow as an overpowered character in all the other scenarios, and the show continues to remind you of this fact. When Aang and his gang are training to defeat the Fire Lord, in their training sessions, it's Aang and all of his buddies literally against just Toph, who controls lock formations of all the possible enemies, and she's stronger than like his entire team combined. They never disrespect her as the series goes forward. In fact, On the contrary, she forges and creates an entire new way of earthbending, like halfway through the 3rd season, that she can control the elements that make up iron and can learn how to do metal bending on the spot, a form of element control or bending the likes of which has never been seen before. She continues to grow too. You have a character that's 15 years old or 12 years old or however old a Toph is, all right? And I've seen all you bastards on Rule 34. You guys are not cool. Look, I know you could see her feet for the entire show, but this is not cool, bro, not cool. This is a character who reached this incredible zenith of power at an incredibly young age. Now, she's part of the group, and she's doing all these adventures, and she's overpowered. Logically speaking, it doesn't make sense for her to not continue to grow. She's constantly being thrown in new situations with people that she wants to protect, in life and death scenarios, and with her adrenaline pushing her to her absolute limits, it only makes sense for this character to keep growing. One major flaw that you see with most overpowered characters, once they're introduced to the story, especially if they're introduced like halfway through the story like Toph is, they don't continue to grow. That is a huge character flaw that you see with tons of characters. Toph is not like that. She continues to grow as the series progresses, as she manages to learn ironbending. Toph is a living, breathing part of this world. She is a fantastically written character. She carries her crew. She carries her team. She carries her squad. She is incredibly strong and never disrespected as an overpowered character throughout the entire story. She is the most powerful earthbender you meet, and she's a child, and she only gets stronger and stronger as the series progresses. That is respecting an overpowered character. And again, because of the disadvantages that she has, she can't just go ahead and fight the Fire Lord. It's not a fight that could possibly happen. This dude's flying around on a goddamn fireball. Little Mr. Nimbus over here. She cannot win every fight. She cannot solve every issue, which is one major, massive writing props to everyone who came up with this glaring weakness of hers. But also, that weakness feeds into her strength in every other scenario. An overpowered character needs to be able to constantly remind you that they're a badass, and she does, but also can't solve every issue for you, and she doesn't. Toph Beifong, this blind little earthbender, and her goddamn feet that are somehow all over the internet. Goddamn it, you people are way too horny. Like, straight up, it is a travesty. Turn yourselves in, guys. As far as an overpowered character, Toph is, without a doubt, 100% not only done right, but done great. She is such a huge part of what makes Avatar: The Last Airbender one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And this isn't even me talking about her actual character arc and character development and integralness to the story and all that. This is just in regards to a character done right that steals the screen whenever she's there and puts such a huge smile on my face. For a girl that was fated to a life of rich cushiness and someone who was fated to a life of futility, for someone like that, get up, make something of themselves, leave their comfort zone, and take over the spotlight of this massive, sprawling story as an overpowered character that adds so much to the story in every episode and every time she's on scene, whether it's character relief or otherwise. She is awesome. So if you want me to do an actual No One Understands Toph delving into her actual character and stuff, let me know in the comments. And let me know if you want me to do other Avatar related content. Again, world building, goddamn, I want to do a video on the world building, but I'll only do that if I see you people are interested. And if you want me to do videos on Iroh or Zuko, even the Avatar is an OP done right, definitely let me know as well. But this has been me, my video on Toph. I hope you enjoyed. You guys requested it, and I am coming through. I'm very happy to be able to make this type of content again. Please subscribe, please leave a like. Let me know future stuff you want to see, whether it's an overpowered analysis, whether it's more Avatar stuff. Have yourself a most wonderful evening, and remember to stay weird, fam, and turn yourself on if you're attracted to her feet.